What's up, everybody? A UFC Fight Night headliner was just announced for April 6th, and that is Marvin Vettori taking on Brendan Allen. Guys, this is a matchup number 5 versus number 8, Marvin Vettori being number 5. This is a huge matchup. This is a matchup that has a lot of stakes on it, and I'm going to dive into why this matchup's so important, who I think is going to win, and kind of what to expect moving forward for both guys. Because just to give you a quick little history, Marvin Vettori has basically been on this streak of win one, lose one, right? He's kind of been playing that rope-a-dope game where he fights a guy that's kind of an up-and-coming contender. He's been the contender eliminator. He did it against Roman Dolidze. He did it when Kevin Holland was hot, back when Holland was at 185, running through multiple different guys. Then, he comes off a loss against Robert Whittaker, bounces back with a win over Dolidze, and now he suffers another loss against, no shame in it, against Jared Cannonier, who's one of the top guys in the division. But I do believe that this is going to be a bounce-back win for Marvin Vettori. It's not going to be easy, but I'm going to explain why, right? I mean, the UFC is trying to give Brendan Allen their opportunity, right? I mean, Brendan Allen's not some mega star or star in the making, but what he is a guy that's on a 6-fight win streak who has not fought anybody that has not fought anyone on that winning streak that has a well-rounded skill set. And here's what I mean. If we want to fact check, look at the resume here. Look at Sam Alvey. Are we going to ever say that Sam Alvey's an outstanding grappler? No, we aren't. Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva has good striking, but his ground game, it's not bad, but it's not great. Then the list goes on and on. Andre Muniz, more of a grappler. Paul Craig, come on, man. Marvin Vettori is a guy that we've seen. They do this. They did this with Roman Dolidze. They've done this before. We saw Sean Strickland kind of pick apart Brendan Allen. We've seen what happens when Brendan Allen is stuck on the feet in a matchup where the takedown is not an option. The submission threat is not exactly an option, because we have to remember, as great and as up and down as Marvin Vettori has been recently, I know Robert Whittaker was able to take him down. Brendan Allen is not the striker that Robert Whittaker is, right? I mean, styles make fights. I know Brendan Allen's striking has improved. We've seen some improvements. We know about the submission threat of Brendan Allen. If he's going to win this fight, that's how Brendan Allen gets this done, is by submission. But I just see that being a really tall order for Brendan Allen. But if we learned anything in 2023, it's that it's a fight and anything can happen. The UFC's been crazy lately. But I will say this, if I had to pick, I'm probably leaning towards Marvin Vettori. And the reason is, I've kind of went back and forth on this, right? On one of my live streams, someone asked me, if you were buying stock in Brendan Allen, would you? And kind of where do you see his ceiling? And I see his ceiling as being a guy that maybe cracks into the top 5 eventually, but I don't believe he ever holds the middleweight strap. And the reason for that is, Brendan Allen, everyone's acting like, okay, he came off a win over Paul Craig. And you have to say Craig because it's, that's how you got to say it, man. And anyway, we've seen that these guys that Brendan Allen's going up against are very one-sided, more or less, in their skill set. What happens when Brendan Allen's been in there with guys that can defend the takedown and he's stuck on the feet and he's having to exchange with guys on the feet? We've seen what happens, man. I take you back to the Strickland fight. And I saw what he did to Bruno Silva. I know Bruno Silva's a good striker. I give Brendan Allen that. He has improved, no doubt about it. But the thing with Marvin Vettori, to me, is the middleweight Marlon Chito Vera. And what I mean by that is Marvin Vettori is not particularly outstanding at one particular thing. He's so well-rounded and good in all areas. He's pretty good in all areas opposed to being great in one area. And he's backed by relentless pressure and just tremendous durability, right? We've seen Marvin Vettori get hit with a head kick by Paulo Costa. We've seen his legs get ripped apart by Israel Adesanya, and this guy still keeps coming. He will not stop unless you put him out of there, which we really haven't seen. So is Brendan Allen going to be the first guy to do that? I don't think so, but if he does, it's definitely going to be by submission. I don't see Brendan Allen being able to finish Marvin Vettori on the feet. I think that would be a true shocker to us all. I think that Marvin Vettori, he's physically stronger. Marvin Vettori, most of his wins are by submission. So I feel like we tend to forget about that because most of the fights recently in Marvin Vettori, he's improved in the striking department, right? Maybe that's gotten him into a little bit of trouble in losing some of these fights, not resorting to the takedown. But at the same time, he's not a guy that goes out there chasing takedowns. But I do believe in this matchup that Marvin Vettori is going to be aggressive. He's going to look to cut the cage off. He's going to try to close Brendan Allen down. but he's going to have to be careful, especially in those earlier rounds where they're not sweating as much, where, you can maybe, early in the fight when you're not as sweaty and you get locked into a submission, it's a lot harder to get out of it, right? I mean, there's not all that sweat going on and things like that, not to be all weird, but that's the truth. It's a little bit harder to lock in a submission when both guys are sweaty and you're kind of slipping out of things, and it makes it harder to lock in a submission. So if Brendan Allen's going to do this, it's going to be inside the first 3 rounds. I do believe that if this goes 5 rounds, this heavily favors Marvin Vettori. I don't know that Brendan Allen would win more than 3 rounds if this was going to go the distance. It's a Fight Night headliner. It's a 5-rounder. Big test for Brendan Allen. Big test because if Brendan Allen's able to get through Marvin Vettori, especially if he's able to submit Marvin Vettori or get a finish, Brendan Allen, not only does he cement himself inside the top 5, but he's 1 fight away from a potential title shot. And the problem that Brendan Allen has going for him is he's not a big name. Brendan Allen's not some guy that we're looking at as a star or a superstar, but what he is a guy that's on a 6-fight win streak. And the UFC at some point has to recognize guys for getting the job done inside the cage, right? I know Brendan Allen's not going to sell it on the mic. He's not, as of right now, some huge draw, putting butts in seats, but he's winning fights. And that has to be rewarded at some point. A lot like what's going on right now with Edwards and Bilal Muhammad. Like, at some point, we can't keep denying Bilal Muhammad. He's going in there winning fights. I know that he's, boring and people don't really care to see him fight, but we have to hold up that end of the obligation, which is if guys are winning and they're doing their job well, they deserve to get a raise. They deserve to get that opportunity to show you what they can do. And I believe that Brendan Allen has been presented that opportunity. He's here. He's on a 6-fight win streak. But it's a tall order. It's a tall order against Marvin Vettori because Vettori's so rounded. I do believe he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns of Brendan Allen. We've seen the track record of Vettori. This guy can go 5 rounds. You can hit him with a baseball bat, and he's still going to keep coming. He's still going to keep pressing forward. He's still going to keep trying to close you down. The thing that concerns me with Marvin Vettori is I don't know, unless he's able to kind of hurt Brendan Allen and Allen gets tired. Maybe Vettori's able to pull off a submission. But Vettori doesn't have a lot of knockout victories, which is kind of surprising to me because when you look at Vettori, you kind of think like this dude hits hard, which he does. And you'd think that he would be getting people out of there a little bit more with the striking, but that's just not how it's went for Marvin Vettori. It's kind of been he either loses in a 5-round war or he's able to get the better of the exchanges and win that 5-round war. So now not all of his fights have been 5-round fights. We have seen him in 3-round fights, but the veteran presence of Marvin Vettori, the well-rounded skill set, the experience of Marvin Vettori, and he's just been that contender eliminator, man. That's just what Marvin Vettori has been doing recently. He's kind of had that cowboy situation where he beats the up-and-comers, fights the top of the guys in the division, and just can't seem to come away with a win. But I will say, this is inside that top 5. There's a lot of interesting matchups. I do believe that this is one of the tougher matchups you could have given Brendan Allen in terms of the well-roundedness of Marvin Vettori, how durable and how tough he is, which is why the risk can really be worth the reward for Brendan Allen, because if somehow Allen can finish Marvin Vettori, man, could you imagine? That might even, depending on what the finish looks like, and depending on how this Adesanya thing plays out with the Strickland DDP thing going on, if he comes off a crazy finish over Marvin Vettori, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow he can sneak his way into a title shot. Not very likely, though. I think that he needs another win inside the top of the division. No doubt that this is a big matchup. This is a great fight. I do believe that Marvin Vettori wins. However, if this thing stops inside the distance, I see that favoring Brendan Allen. But what do you all think? Like, comment your opinion below. Give me an early prediction. Subscribe. Help your boy out. I appreciate you all. See you in the next one.